Hey peeps, this is Kizu. Welcome to the Veterans of the Folk podcast. This is supposed to be episode 5, but it was actually meant to be episode 6. Schedules change, so I'm instead now taking after behavior and rushing out content that I really wanted to sit on for a little while longer, but you know, it is what it is. So today, I wanted to talk about the future of Dead by Daylight at a macro scale. And I feel like that's not a very popular topic for some reason, although I think it's a very interesting thing to analyze. And in my opinion, the future of Dead by Daylight doesn't actually look very bright. So to put you into a little bit of context, you're going to see some numbers in this. But to summarize, we went from having barely anything happen Dead by Daylight outside of chapters and having licenses here and there to having 4 blood feasts in 1 year, 4 blood hunts in 1 year, 1 blood rush also, 20 mini events, 11 full events, 10 of them coming with tomes, having 6 chapters in 1 year and 4 of them being licensed. And in 2025, we know what 3 chapters minimum will come out in the first half, 2 of them licensed, and the year started out with a blood hunt and more events than ever promised. And you know what's interesting? We see this insane uptick in attempts at player retention, which, you know, doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. But it's clear that the game is being designed to always have an incentive to keep you logging in every single day of the week, of the month, of the year itself, for goodness sake. There is barely a single moment in 2024 where there is like not a huge reason to log into Dead by Daylight. And yet, if you look at the stats of Dead by Daylight, of player counts, and yes, Steam stats are not the be and all, but the point we're looking at is trends. Not the absolute value, but the values as they change. And what's interesting is that in 2024, we aren't looking at that great of a number change. So we started out in January 2024 with 28,000 players on average. And we're in the middle of January right now. So it's not a fair apple-to-apple comparison. But, you know, December is a more favorable year for Dead by Daylight, month for Dead by Daylight anyway. So this is, if anything, is going to help its case. And its average players currently, there's an event going on also, by the way, the Chaos Shuffle, which is also licensed. Have we ever had a licensed event before? I don't think we have. So we have an event going on right now, and our average players are only 31,000. You might say, well, that's 3,000 better than January 2024. And while that is true, 2023 was a much weaker year in terms of player retention than 2024. And, okay, well, you know, maybe we should compare January 2024 versus January 2023. Actually, that's not a favorable comparison at all. If we look at January 2023, we have 33,000 players, and in January 2024, to remind you, is only 28,000 players. And if we look through years, sure, we can have ups and downs. In June into August of 2024 was a notably stronger than June to August of 2023, but you have to realize, is it really that much stronger considering we had triple the count of events and tomes, we have more chapters, and we had 80% of the chapters. Oh, is it 80%? Blah, 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 blah. Roughly 80%, like, okay, I'm not gonna bother to do the math properly. Roughly 80% of the chapters be licensed. So this is with events, more than ever. We have like 4 blood feasts, something that only happened once in the history of Dead by Daylight before, as an anniversary thing. Now, as a like 20 trillion blood feasts a minute, 20 events a minute, most of the chapters, more chapters than ever released in Dead by Daylight history in 1 year, almost all of them being licensed, And yet the player counts are at best remaining the same, if not stagnating. Hell, with the recursion of 2v8 happened, and 2v8 was like one of the biggest events in the Battle history, although it still hasn't eclipsed the release of Resident Evil into by Daylight, the 5th anniversary. Nonetheless, when the second iteration came around, that players weren't interested. You know, the queues were still horrendous, but there were just so fewer players during that. And that is crazy to me. You know, if you truly believe that Dead by Daylight in its state is currently healthier than it was before, this doesn't make sense. If you come through a lens of analyzing Dead by Daylight to believing that, iteratively, through the years and years of updates, it is now in a better state than it was in 2021. This doesn't make sense. Like, it just doesn't. Because level of investment into this game is insane right now. So many things are happening. So many events. Like, even events are becoming licensed. Licensed collaborations. We know the next 2v8, by the way, is going to be a licensed collaboration as well. That is leaked. And yet, the player counts aren't even matching up to 2021. I don't know, 2022. Despite how horrendous most of it was still a stronger year. 2022 spent most of itself in decline. In player counts. In decline. There's more red on there than green completely. And yet it is still a year that more strongly shows itself for Dead by Daylight than 2024. The year where it was honestly impossible to go a week without something new coming out to Dead by Daylight. Or at least some kind of event going on. I swear, I feel like our blood points were increased in some manner more time than they haven't been playing DBD last year. And I know it's not empirically true, but it feels like that. And if it's starting to feel like it's not worth logging on to the game unless an event is going on, because the events are so frequent, you might as well wait a few weeks and then you're going to have triple the blood points. Well, gamer, something is wrong there. Something is going horribly wrong. There is 1,000 reasons to open up Dead by Daylight right now. If you're a returning player, if you're a new player, it should be, if the game has gotten better, the best year for Dead by Daylight ever. And it isn't. Which means the foundation is rotten. It is just not fun anymore for a lot of people. Or at least it's not fun past the first few hundred hours. Where people are drawn in and then just fall off the game. And also, especially this does mean that all the older player base is also falling out. If new licenses entice new players, which we 100% must, and the player counts don't change, that must mean the older players are giving up on the game. Which means, despite the fact that there is pretty much every tool imaginable that Behavior are deploying to increase player retention. I mean, hell, we even got the new store that's also driving to increase player retention because there's a weekly gift thing. Whereas every aspect of this game has been tuned to get that retention of the player base. Except the gameplay. The gameplay is the one thing Behavior have a tweak to try and increase player reception and player fun. And you can argue with me there. But this is cold hard facts. Despite there being more content, more reasons to put up Dead by Daylight than ever in the history of it, despite insane amounts of money being spent on it, Dead by Daylight is not growing. And I'm sure, with FNAF, there's going to be maybe an attempt to repeat the anniversary of Resident Evil. Maybe it will even surpass that. But you know what? No, I have no doubt in my mind that whatever boost they will receive from that will be temporary. Because if we haven't seen players drawn in from all of these past events, we won't see from those chapters. We just won't see them retain. We will see a player boost, I'm sure of it, but I just don't believe FNAF can save Dead by Daylight. Now, if they change the game to be better, yes, game can live probably at least another 6 years in my opinion. But I don't see a reason to believe that the game will get better, because it has been getting worse ever since 2022. It has gotten progressively more and more aggressive in driving player retention. And yet, for some peculiar reason, despite more and more content, the game isn't growing. And I think behavior recognizes this, because they've tried to branch out their IP like 1,000 times now. Casting of Frank Stone, Meet Your Maker, Islands of Insight, Project T. Well, Islands of Insight, shut down. Meet Your Maker, might as well be shut down. Project T, cancel. The Casting of Frank Stone, largely critically destroyed, and, you know, judging by the amount of reviews, probably didn't sell very well. And all of those have been pricey investments, pricey ventures. And, of course, behavior stuff, they've been cut off multiple times in the start of January of last year and towards the summer. And a lot of people said, oh, this is just how business works. You know, this is fine. No, it's not. No. If you are making these business decisions, because this is an executive strategy, instead of focusing on the game health, instead of buckling down, doing a project health chapter from the game to increase player retention, to try and address the root cause of why people aren't sticking with your game, you just try to content and push through it. Of course, content quality has suffered quite tremendously. You know? I mean, we had like half the events in 2024 literally not work. And we had to be compensated for it. Half the chapters haven't worked either. I mean, the Hellnest, for example. Oh, my lord. And, you know, I don't know how you can sit there and say to me with a straight face, yeah, the game is in the best state it has ever been. Fucking genuinely? Do you really believe that? It's okay to have fun with Dead by Daylight. Like, I'm not going to tell you, hey, are you having fun on Dead by Daylight right now? Fucking stop. I am never going to tell people to stop having fun in a fucking video game. Like, holy shit, I can find like playing some video games cringe because I hate them and I think they're corpus slop. Like, I don't know, Fortnite. I think it's just slop. But I won't deny slop can be fun. If you're having fun with it, I won't tell you, hey, you should stop having fun. I will never do it. Why the fuck would I ever do it? Will I find the game cringe? Yes. Will I find the game bad? Yes. But I won't ever tell you to not have fun with it. Never. That is never my goal. But I think we have, as a community, I think we have to recognize Dead by Daylight, this is its swan song. Unless something genuinely changes in the game, which behavior have not given me any reason to believe that it will. This is the end. Slow, painful, bitter, and miserable. A miserable end. A miserable end. A very slow one. But eventually, what will happen is Dead by Daylight player counts will wane. The return on investment just won't be there. And they'll shut down all our projects, like they've done with DBD Mobile, for example. They'll lay off even more staff. They might scramble to try and make the game better, but at that point, it will just be too late. And people just won't come back. People just will move on to greener pastures. And the game will be over. And I think that's sad. Because I think that Dead by Daylight is one of the most unique and honestly, in the past, one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had in my life. In my life playing games. Dead by Daylight was one of the most fun and enticing and engaging experiences that also brought all the iconic horror elements together. But now it's in its decline. And you can deny that as hard as you want. You can say how many things are coming to the game. But you have to recognize that, you know, you can solve visually your long-term problems by just puffing up your chest and pretending everything is fine, and trying to utilize strategies to mitigate the short-term effects, the symptoms. Unless you address the root cause of a problem, people just don't seem to want at large. Stick by your game. It's going to die. It's just going to die. A slow and miserable and painful death. Because right now, the only thing that is keeping Dead by Daylight player count in the same ballpark that it has had since like 2020 are the constant events, constant new chapters, constant mini events, constant fucking modifiers, constant blood fiends, constant blood hunts, constant blood rushes, and that doesn't work forever. There is a limit to the amount of audience that can reach, and when you reach the limit of the people who care to learn about your game, care to play it, care to pick it up, and your player retention is bad, I don't think you need me to make the math for you here, but I will anyway. Your game dies. If there's not an enjoyable, a really enjoyable core at your game that is replayable, like the live service dies. You know? And I think we are about to see Dead by Daylight die. Not in the immediate future, no. I mean, like, there's just so much momentum, so much inertia to this game. It's really a giant in the industry. But I think you have to approach it with a critical lens. Not from a point of view as the one player, but from the point of just trying to analyze where this all will go. And it doesn't look like it's going anywhere good. Starting from 2022, we've seen a major decline in the Dead by Daylight, specifically when it comes to its player reception. Retention. And to compensate for that, holy shit, my camera went out. That hasn't happened in years. Okay, so to compensate for that, HVR decided to branch out, to get into more money-making streams, get more content out, get more events having in the game. And I just don't think that works. You know? I'm tired. Because I genuinely, if this game had half the chapters in it, and all of that dev time was instead dedicated to making this game better, like even addressing such basic foundations as the servers, you know? Or maybe even something so drastic as a rewrite of the game. So it won't be peer-to-peer hack salt into dedicated servers anymore. Eliminating cheating entirely. Eliminating DLC bypass. That'll all be cool, wouldn't it? That would really make a lot of long-term players either come back or stick around. But I think we all have to admit, that's never happening. Because, baby, we live in capitalism. And the only thing that the corporation that is BHVR sees is a line go up. And as long as the line goes up, it's all good. There's no reason to introspect. You never need to. Just make line go up ad infinitum. That line don't go up infinitum. Just doesn't. And with a few key missteps in 2022, which I believe personally to be updates 610 and 670, along probably with chapter 7 night as conversion, I think this game has like a long-term kill itself. Genuine. Because we see player retention, and it's not good. And I think it's time to admit that. I think it's time to discuss that as a community. Because I think too many people in one of the Dead by Daylight are ignorant to the long-term ramifications of updates, to the long-term of this game. People can only think patch to patch, maybe speculate on what killer will be next, maybe speculate how good it will be to nerf the other side. But I think it's time to speculate and analyze what the future of this game is. It's time we explore why it seems like Dead by Daylight is doing better than ever, but also worse than ever at the same time. And the answer that you will find is that to hide its falling player counts, specifically older players, Dead by Daylight has seen a desperate push for massive content injections at the cost of quality, while not addressing the root cause of the issue, that being the gameplay of their fucking bloody video game. And it does seem to be a continuous failure for BHVR. Because, you know, all their other projects that they try to push out to expand from their one cash cow, Dead by Daylight, failed miserably. Even Dead by Daylight Mobile, which is just Dead by Daylight type more monetization, failed also. They closed it all down. Like, you have to understand that all of these failures, they don't come for free. This has been millions and millions and millions of dollars that have been invested, have been spent, and it has cost humans their livelihoods. Many, many people, including the people who were behind the much beloved unknown teaser campaign, by the way. If you aren't aware of why the teasers became so shit for Dead by Daylight, like, especially when it came to Lara Croft, why there were seemingly AI-generated concepts for Lara Croft art, well, that's why. Because we live in such a system that encourages this type of behavior. By BHVR, also known as behavior. So if you expect anything good out of Dead by Daylight, I would temper your expectations. And if you expect the soon inevitable crash of Dead by Daylight that will happen in the next few months, or next year even, I would also temper your expectations. Games like this just have too much inertia between them. A lot of people have stuck by this game for years, including myself. A lot of people sunk thousands of hours into this game, including myself. A lot of people spent a lot of money on this game, including myself. But that doesn't mean there is an inflection point. A point at which it just won't be enough anymore. And Dead by Daylight will have its swan songs here. And I believe that will be the next year of Dead by Daylight. After the FNAF release, this hype wanes, and things continue to be troubled when it comes to long-term player retention. I do believe that will be the last year that Dead by Daylight has as part of its glory days. I would argue its glory days are long, long behind it, but I cannot argue that FNAF won't bring in a ton of new players, and eventually let them push past the current player retention issues for a notable long while. But I think year 10, the decade-long anniversary of Dead by Daylight, will mark the inflection point. Bar any insane changes, any new fantastical collaborations somehow still not done. I doubt it will make financial or just any sense to keep making Dead by Daylight as it currently is. At that point, it will be too late. And I think that's sad. And the odds of behavior changing their course are slim to none. So, if you enjoy Dead by Daylight as it is right now, and you want to keep playing it, maybe you should argue for change. Maybe you should protest for change. Maybe you should, harass. Harass is a bad word. Maybe you should nudge HVR at large to try and make something good happen. But I sincerely doubt any kind of campaign like that, unless largely coordinated between all content creators, will work. So, instead, the only thing I have to suggest to you is, if you're enjoying Dead by Daylight right now, do enjoy the time you have of it. Because my gut tells me it might be fleeting. All right. Thanks for watching, peeps. This has been a more short episode of Veterans of the Fog, but, you know, to be fair to myself, I think the subject matter is kind of just very self-explanatory. If you look at the numbers, they do speak for themselves. And it all does make a lot of sense. I didn't really enjoy making this video, but I did have a sort of satisfaction of finally putting these thoughts out there, because it has been so long that I now felt like that I was heading down the wrong path. And now, stepping back, I do feel vindicated. And, you know, I do hold out a hope, and maybe in a year from now, I'll record a video saying year 9 of Dead by Daylight wasn't the swan song. Year 9 was one of the best years in Dead by Daylight history. They turned it around, and they cared enough. But, you know, somehow I sincerely doubt that. So, you know, if you enjoyed this video, do leave a like, do leave a comment, do subscribe. And if you disagree with me, well, I feel like that's maybe a little over-optimistic of you, or just silly. But still, if you're respectful, feel free to voice your disagreement in the comments. I'm not sure when... Oh my lord, words are hard. I'm not sure when I will see you next, but I do hope you have a good year. Despite all the things going on in the world, despite all the things going on properly in your life right now, odds are, I do hope things are good. And I do hope this year for Dead by Daylight will also be good. However much I think it won't be. I'll see you in the next one, peeps. Thank you so much, my supporters on Patreon, by the way. I don't normally shout out people in the Veterans of the Fog podcast, because, you know, these are just kind of off the cuff, you know, podcast episodes. And I only really do it in video essays. But, you know, nevertheless, thank you for just supporting me on Patreon, and thank you to Fear More Bad for also supporting me on Patreon. It is very generous of you, and I very much appreciate it. If you're interested in joining these videos, getting shoutouts at the end of the videos, not like this one usually, but normally at any of my videos, you stuff like PDB deep dives, live dives, sort of general video essays like the Dead by Daylight meta video that I've recently published. Feel free to join the Patreon. You'll also get some exclusive benefits in the Discord, like a special role and behind the scenes content, and also some updates. It's on stuff and the future of channels plural. Yes, that will include also my main channel, where I recently released a video, the review of EP5, a very troubled game with an uncertain future, one I nonetheless dearly enjoy and hope to succeed. But hey, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching the Veterans of the Fog podcast, and me in particular today. I'll hopefully see you all both in the next video and both in the next episode of the Veterans of the Fog podcast. I bet you do, peeps. See you in the next one.